found it in his heart to travel all the way here from the Bronx, New York, and to grace us with some words of wisdom, in which he's also working in the reentry space there in New York. And I just want to take this time out to introduce someone that I now call a friend of mine, and that's Mr. Sean Prez. Thank you.
What up, y'all? Ed, thanks so much for that dope intro, man. Like you said, over these past few months, I've been blessed, through knowing you, through learning more about you and your spirit, and watching you move. And I'm honored to call myself your friend. So thank you so much for inviting me out here. Test. One. Okay, this is a little bit better. I apologize, y'all, for the little delay. I was in the back trying to get my zone. But real talk, y'all, I need energy in this place. Coming up behind, people eating lunch is always the worst place. Real talk. So y'all got to stand up. I'm from the music industry. I need energy, real talk. Like, give me some energy. I'm first. Thank y'all so much for having me out here. I came out here with no sleep. I'm exhausted, but I'm going to just do what I do and give it to y'all from the heart. First, I want to thank, again, Mr. Ed Hennings for seeing something in me and asking me to come and participate in this worthy event. So thank you, my brother. I want to thank Natasha and the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. And this is a beautiful event. Like, I didn't know what I was walking into. When Ed asked, I just said yes. But being here this morning, this is so beautiful. I love the spirit. I love hearing from all of the speakers. And to all of the speakers and all of the sponsors, Simple Steps, and just everybody who participated, this is so dope. So thanks for having me. And like Ed said, I spend a lot of my time now working in the reentry space. And week over week, I go into the prison system and I try to educate and inspire as many of those young brothers as I possibly can. Some of them have done horrible things, but at the end of the day, they're still human beings. They're still good people at heart. And if you can get past the mistakes that some of them have made, you'll come to understand that as human beings, they deserve another chance. And there's one kid in particular, every week I go into that system, and I can't help but like this kid for whatever reason. He's hard-headed, he's defiant, he's stubborn, but it's something about him that every week that I go in, I look for him. And as we got to know each other over the past few months, I would tell him week over week, don't let this time go for waste. Use it. Become a better person. You can be great right where you're at. Do something that's difficult. Do something that's hard. Pick up a book. Educate yourself. Do all the things that you wasn't doing on the outside, because now you have the time to do it. And week over week, I come in and I ask him, what did you read this week? Nothing. I come in next week. What did you write this week? What did you learn this week? I didn't learn nothing new. And I remember one week in particular, I came in, and he's sitting there, and he's playing cards with his boys. And I was like, yo, Cam, did you read something new? Did you write something new? Did you learn something that you didn't know yesterday? And he ignored me. And I'm looking at this kid like he's crazy, like, huh? So I asked him again, and he ignored me. So I'm like, we got to do a little bit better than this. So I remember he put the card down, and I put my hand over the card. Now it's a little standoff between me and him. And I said, did you learn something new this week? And he said, yo, Sean, have you ever been locked up? I said, no, I ain't never been locked up. He said, well, then you won't understand. Because in here, I got to do what I know. I got to do whatever I can possibly do to make my time be just a little more easier. And I stepped back. I said, huh? I said, do you even hear yourself? Easier? I said, you can tell me everything there is to know about the drug game because that's easy for you. You can tell me everything there is to know about the streets because that's easy for you. But easy got you in here. And easy is going to bring your back behind back in here. And as I stepped away from that table, as much as I want to see this young man come from behind those walls and be reunited with his family, I knew in my heart at that minute he wasn't ready. Right where he was at, he needs to be because he ain't ready to come back on these streets. I love that little kid, but he ain't ready. And I truly, in my heart and in my soul, believe you can come back from anything. But the real question is, will you come back to that thing? So I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say it just a little slower because y'all need to feel me on this. Everybody talk that comeback talk. And I truly believe you can come back from anything. But will you come back to that thing? While you was down, while you was sitting your behind down, did you change your mind? Did you ask God to give me a new perspective? Give me a new way of dealing with things. Give me a new way with dealing with conflict. Or did you clean up on the outside and never take a moment to deal with what's on the inside and change that? And I think back to this young lady who was born and raised in the hood in Newark, New Jersey. Now this woman, gorgeous, chocolate brown, slimmy, stand 5'10" tall, and can sing like she got a voice straight from heaven. And as she was coming up singing in the church, the word got around that this woman was going to be the next big thing out there. And eventually she got a record deal. And when she got that record deal, they poured tens of thousands of dollars into cleaning her up, making sure that she can walk in any room and speak the Queen's English. She walked like a model on a runway in Paris. But what they never did was invest money with what was on the inside. This woman, she went on and she got international stardom. She made a few movies, won Emmy Awards, Billboard Music Awards, American Music Awards, VMAs, 8 Grammys to her name. And one day in 2012, they found Miss Whitney Houston high as a kite in a shallow bathtub, drowned, because all of the money that she had, all of the fame that she acquired, all of the accolades, and all of the celebrity didn't mean nothing. Because at the end of the day, when that industry got tough, she went back to what she knew. When life got hard, there was no comeback. She came back to what was easy. She knew she loved them bad boys. She knew she loved them drugs. And every time things got difficult for her, she came right back to what it was that was easy for her. And what I'm trying to tell y'all, if you gonna make a comeback, you gotta start up here. Everybody loves a comeback story. I'm in Milwaukee. Y'all beloved Bucks was down 0-2 and came back to win 4 straight a few months ago. Everybody love a comeback story. But that ain't the comeback story I'm talking about. I'm talking about when it get hard out there, will you come back to the streets? When things get tough for you, will you come back to that game that you know oh so well? When you get more no's than yeses, will you come back to the system that you said once before, I'll never come back to this thing? Will you come back? Because in there, you're somebody. You know your way around that system in and out. In there, they play by a set of rules, a code, and you know that. But out here, guess what? The squares run the yard. Out here, it's the lames that control the house. Can you deal with that? Can you deal with somebody who you wouldn't respect on a normal day, telling you what to do, telling you where to be, controlling that paycheck that you're supposed to get? Or are you going to give yourself excuses? Will you give yourself excuses for going back to that game? Or will you step up and make that comeback? Because it's easy to give yourself excuses. Wow, I can't make a comeback. I can't make my comeback because of something. I can't make my comeback because of someone. But let me tell you why you're not making your comeback. And it ain't got nothing to do with your ops. It ain't got nothing to do with your haters. It ain't got nothing to do with your baby mama. It ain't got nothing to do with the system. And it damn sure ain't got nothing to do with the white man. It got something to do with that man, and that man, and that man. I'm talking about that man that's looking back at you when you look in the mirror. That's the man that you need to be pissed off with, because that's the man that's going to prevent you from making that comeback. And I'm telling y'all this for a reason, because when you're trying to go forward in this life, you can't look back. There ain't no looking back. This thing is biblical. It's been written. We all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. God told Lot, I'm going to destroy this city. I want you to take your family and get them out of this city. But Lot procrastinated. Lot didn't listen to God. And God gave him another chance. God sent his angels. And he said, get Lot and his family out of this city. The angels grabbed them by the hand, and they walked Lot and his family to the edge of the city and said, don't look back, because God is going to destroy that city. And if you look back, you will surely die. And as Lot and his kids was looking that way, moving forward, his wife looked back and was killed on the spot. And what I'm trying to explain to y'all is God, he's right here with you. And he done sent angels your way again and again and again. But you might not recognize them, because those angels don't come with wings. Them angels come looking like ordinary people. They look like that mother that stood by you from day one and would not turn her back on you. They look like that preacher who never gave up on you and poured to you week over week. They look like that good woman, that ride or die, that no matter what you put her through, she see you for you and have your back. You have to go this way. There ain't no looking back. Don't you understand that? If you are on the road to making a comeback, don't look back. It's only about going forward. I look at myself, a kid born and raised in the South Bronx, poverty-stricken, and I was able to make this comeback out of poverty. I was able to make a comeback from being on welfare. I was able to make a comeback from out there using food stamps and benefit cards. God bless me. And even though I can't come back, to whom much is given, much is required. But now, by doing what I'm doing, I have to go back in my own way and try to grab some of them other young brothers who might be in the same position that I was once in and show them, if I can do it, you damn sure can do it. And that's why I respect so many of the brothers in this room, why I keep in contact with my man Ed Hennings. I can't speak to y'all from the perspective that he speaks to y'all. I never did 20 years walking around that yard. This is his story. He can speak to y'all in a way that's credible, it's authentic, in a way that can reach you that I never could. But if God brought you out, to much is given, much is required. You got to go back in your own way. You might not have a pot to piss in, but you got your experience. You got your credibility. You got your authenticity. And you can speak to a lot of them youth, a lot of them young brothers who's on the verge of making them same mistakes that you once made. And you can touch them and save some of them in a way that so many of us can't. It's not about coming back to that place, but it's reaching back and going back and grabbing them brothers out. So before I conclude, for all of the brothers in here, or sisters, if you have ever been behind that wall, if you have ever done time, I need you to stand up. Stand up with me. Look around this room. This is the reentry conference. Here's the question. Is it a reentry into society, or will this be your reentry back into the system? For anybody who has ever loved somebody who's standing up, who's been in the system, for anybody who has ever stood by somebody who has done some of the worst things imaginable, and you still got their back, please stand up. Stand up with them. Look at them. Understand that they are here. They took the first step trying to make a difference in their life. And when I hear the word reentry, it makes me think about an ex-felon. It makes me think about somebody who's been behind that wall. And I need y'all, if you've been there, number one, you are greater than the worst mistake you have ever made. You are bigger than the worst thing that you have ever done. God has more in store for you than the worst decision that you have ever made in your life. But I want to change that word just for now. That re-entry, to me, somebody who ain't never been there, that signifies prison. It signifies the system. So just for right now, this minute, I'm going to change that word. It ain't about re-entry. It's about reintroduction. I need y'all to look around. I'm from the music industry. So when I see things, I see it in terms of music notes and sound and beats. So before I leave y'all, I'm going to do something, and I need y'all to repeat after me. Some of y'all know where I'm about to go with this. But this is a reintroduction. And I need you to look to the right and to the left. And when I count to 4, I need y'all to tell the person standing next to you, like Jay-Z told the world, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is 1. two. 1, 2, 3, 4. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name. Hold up. Y'all did that. Y'all ain't serious about this. We're going to do it one more time. If you are serious about this reintroduction, not reentry, when I count to 4, I need little green people on Mars to hear you. Say it loud. Say it with conviction. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Sean Prez. Thank you so much for having me, Milwaukee. Let's do it. Keep doing your thing. You know. I got you, kid. Oh my God.
So listen, y'all know how we do it at home. I don't know, I'm from the South, so like when my grandma used to always tell me, when somebody come to your house, you make sure that you show them a whole, listen here. So we wanted to welcome Mr. Perez to Wisconsin. We wanted to welcome him to Milwaukee. Everything Milwaukee. We want to show hospitality while he in our house because he came so far, didn't charge us nothing. He wanted to be here, so I wanted to make sure that we showed our appreciation. Welcome to Milwaukee.
Thank you so much. Thank you, baby. Hold up, where the cameras at? Somebody get this picture real quick. Let's do it right. Get in there, Ed.
So
Come on, Tom.
This you.
There we go.
do we get the championship hat on here? Okay. You take that back to Philly.
I will. Come on. Philly, she said. Let's do a quick photo. Get in the middle. Yeah. All right, what you doing, baby?
Awesome. That was great, wasn't it? Was that great or what, man? I enjoyed every minute of it, man. That was awesome. I guess I gotta just jump right in here, man. I'm an owner of a trucking business myself, Vision Universal Trucking. I started a barber and beauty salon a couple years ago as well, coming out of G's Clippers. I learned so much at G's that I struck out selling weave and everything, and started my own barbershop and beauty salon. I'm also a motivational speaker, mentor, and coach. I travel the country now. I've been to Denver, Cincinnati, Memphis, Mobile, Alabama, and the list goes on and on, just speaking to groups of people about, this comeback thing right here, and that you really can come back from anything. But that's all part of a contract. You see, we have to be careful of the contracts that we sign, because the contract that I signed led me to be here today. This is all part of a contract. You see, when I was younger, my uncle had a friend. I grew up in Milwaukee. I grew up in Capitol. I like to call it the upper poor. Back in the 70s, that was the upper poor. The cats off of Center and Locust didn't see us as poor, but, we was the upper poor. Okay, so I grew up on Capitol Drive, and once again, my uncle had a friend, and his name was Mikey. And one day, me, my uncle, and my friend were sitting in the basement at my grandparents' house because my grandparents raised me. And we were in the basement hanging out. They were like 10 plus years older than me. So they said, we finna leave. You can go on upstairs and get you some sleep. We'll be back later. So, I'm the little guy. I like sitting around the older guys, listening to what I can and learn from the old heads. So they told me to go upstairs, and they left. So I went upstairs and got into bed and went to sleep. And I don't know how many hours it was later, but my uncle woke me up. He called me Toad. He said, Toad, get up. Wake up. And I woke up and I looked at my uncle and he said, Mikey gone. And I said, Mikey gone? What? And I'm about 8, 9 years old at the time. So I'm thinking like, Mikey gone. I know what gone mean. I'm from the hood, so I know what it mean. Like, what happened? He said, man, Joe shot Mikey. And I was just sitting there looking at my uncle. You know, he was somebody I looked up to. And I seen the pain in his eyes. I seen the fear just oozing off of his face as I looked at him. And I had never really seen my uncle look like that before. So at that moment, the wheels started to spin in my head. And then shortly around that same time, another guy in my neighborhood, a guy that his name was Eric Adway, very well-known guy in my community, somebody else I looked up to. And one day, we heard that he died in the county jail in police custody. And in the neighborhood, it was like, man, Eric didn't kill himself. Nobody could believe it. Like, still to this day, nobody believes that Eric killed himself. And to go on, I got to junior high school. Now, the first two deaths that I spoke on, I was in elementary school. Now I'm on to junior high school. And there was a guy that I went to junior high school with, and we were really cool. And this back when LL Cool J and New Edition had the Kangos on. So, you know, we all in Milwaukee, we wearing the Kangos. We all putting our Kangos on and our Adidas, and, you know, we got the Run DMC Kango thing going on. So this guy, he I guess his family couldn't afford a Kango. I think I got one for my birthday. So the Kango that he borrowed from somebody else, he ended up letting another guy wear it. And this became an altercation because the guy who originally owned the Kango, he went to my friend and said, where's my Kango at? And he said, oh man, I let the other guy wear it. So on 24th and Keith Street, that's a couple blocks from my house, there's a church that sits on that corner. And those guys met up on the steps of that church. And needless to say, one of them was stabbed over the Kango, and the other guy didn't make it. And in Milwaukee, they dubbed that in the news as the Kango killer. And these type of events happened simultaneously, back to back to back, up until about 7th grade of my life. And I remember a contract I signed. I signed a contract during this time in my life that I wasn't going to ever let anybody do anything to me. After being a part of this community and seeing these deaths happen so close to me at a young age, I signed a contract. And I listened to some of the young ladies and to some of the young men that I talk to now, and that's something that I listen for. I hear a lot of young ladies talk about how they watch their mom get abused and be in violent relationships. And they look at their mom and they say, I ain't gonna never let that happen to me. They sign a contract at a young age. I look at some of the guys who grew up in poverty, and at a young age, they couldn't afford a lot of things, and they wanted them so bad, and they signed a contract. They said, man, I'm not gonna ever be broke, no matter what I have to do, whether it's rob, steal, or kill. They signed that contract. And a lot of times, especially when I was in prison myself, I would listen. And I think back now, and I hear so many contracts that were signed, and these contracts haven't been ripped up yet. These contracts still are standing. The name that you signed on it at 8, 9 years old, your name is still on that contract. So some of you guys sitting in this audience today have signed that contract. You see, when I was coming up, I fought hard. I fought hard not to get caught up in the streets, although it was around me everywhere I went, in my household, on the corner, on the playground. But I was fighting hard to not get caught up in it until I got to my post-high school years. I contemplated it a lot of times that I was going to get in the game at 15 and 16. And some of the guys that was already in the game in my neighborhood would look at me and, you don't want none of this. And I'd be like, yep, you're right, I don't want none of that. So I would stay out. And then I went to school in Phoenix, Arizona. And I got there. And I was getting good grades again in school. School wasn't ever hard for me. But when I got to Phoenix, I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like, man, who I've been fooling all of this time trying to stay out the game? I should have been in the game a long time ago. And I called my mom one day, and I said, Mom, I'm getting good grades. I'm in school. I'm doing the right thing. I need a car. So Mom said, boy, you got no money for no car? What's wrong with you? Remember, we the upper poor. We don't really have that much, but, you know, we make it look good. Anyway, she told me she couldn't afford me a car because a lot of students around me were driving cars to school every day and I was riding a mountain bike. And that didn't sit well with me because I was getting better grades than they did. So I felt like I deserved it and they didn't. And then I thought back to when I was in the hood and a lot of fellas that wasn't even going to school was driving cars every day. And I said, the same thing playing out for me. Whether I'm in school or not, I'm not in school. I'm still ending up in the same place, on this bike or on the bus. So what difference do it make? So I came up with an idea. I told my mom to send me a plane ticket. Send me money for a plane ticket. I'm gonna take a small break from school and come back to Milwaukee. And my mom sent me $375, something close to that range. And back in 1990, 91, you could buy a bus ticket anywhere in America for $69.99 if you get it 2 weeks in advance. So I took $69.99 out of that $300 and some odd dollars, and I bought me a Greyhound bus ticket. And I rode 3 days and 3 nights back here to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But with that $300 still in my pocket, I was gonna turn that $300 to $600, $600 to $1,200, $1,200 to $2,400, and so forth and so on. I made the call before I left. I called the hood. I said, I'm on my way back, and I won't in. They all laughed at me. They said, oh, you ain't finna come back and do nothing. Yes, I am. I'm in this time. I promise you. So I came back. I put that $300 in, and the worst thing that ever happened to me happened. I turned that $300 to $600, that $600 to $1,200. I was an overnight success. I took my lumps, and I kept rolling. And before you know it, all the things that I ever wanted, I had. But more importantly, it wasn't the material items that got me. It wasn't the fame in the hood that got me. It was my independence. It was my newfound independence. I was 19 years old and I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. And that was the greatest feeling in the world, to having my own money in my own pocket. Now my mama asking me for things. And that felt so good to me, like, oh man, I don't know how I'm ever going back to school. Even when she asked, boy, don't you know it's time for you to go back to school? Mama, I got this here. And I give her some money and they would just leave me alone. You know, so now I'm in the street gang. I done walked away from school. I'm back in my old neighborhood. I'm in the streets. I got my own little circle. My friends, I'm the go-to guy. Somebody needs something, they call me. They need a car, they call me. They need a loan, they call me. They need some meat on the barbecue grill, they call me. And that's a wonderful feeling for a person that grew up asking everybody for everything. Now I'm in that seat. I'm the go-to guy. But once again, remember those agreements that I signed? Remember that contract I told y'all I signed? I took that with me from house parties when I was doing talent shows and I wasn't in the street. So when I would go somewhere to a house party at a young age, somebody would run up on me and my friends. We got the high top fades and we don't look cool. I was daring them to do something to me because I got a contract I signed. Ain't nobody doing nothing to me. So when I got in the street gang, I still had that contract in my back pocket. So I subjected myself to the likelihood of me having an altercation with people was more likely in the street gang than it was when I wasn't in the street gang. So when my friends had issues, I had issues right along with them. But remember, I had that contract in my pocket. So this particular night, my uncle had some problems. The same uncle I told you about, whose friend named Mikey, who got killed when I was in elementary school. He had some problems with some guys in the neighborhood. The guys ran up on my uncle, beat him up, jumped on him and all of that. He came running back to the house. Told they just jumped me. What I do, I grab my gun, stick it in my pocket, leave the house with my uncle. We get a block away from where we living at my grandmom's house. The same guys who just jumped on my uncle come after my uncle again. One guy gets nose to nose with my uncle. Remember, I got my contract in my pocket. Ain't nobody doing nothing. They got so close and they jawing spit, you could see spit coming out of each other's mouths. This 1990. This the year of Carl Kanai, cross colors. It ain't the slim fit jeans that we wearing today. It's the big baggy clothes, 4X t-shirts with somebody my size. In my mind, I seen a hand go up under the guy's shirt. I pushed my uncle out of the way and I pulled out that gun I was carrying and I shot 2 times. Didn't see nobody hit the ground. Didn't see any blood. Didn't know anybody was hit. All I knew was it was total chaos. It was me and my uncle and about 20 of them guys out there. Guys was running out of yards. People was running out down the street. Everything was chaos. I kept shooting. People kept running. Later on that night, I was arrested, taken to the county jail, interrogated and put in a holding cell. I think I fell asleep. It was late at night now because this altercation happened about 8 o'clock. So about 1, 2 in the morning, I woke up to a piece of paper being slid under the door of my cell. And on that piece of paper, it read, first-degree intentional homicide, mandatory life sentence. I think on that paper, it might as well said 2 life sentences, 2 homicides, because I think I died when I read that paper. I could feel nothing inside of me. I couldn't even feel my arms and legs at the time. So there was not just 1 death, there was 2 deaths. Toby died that night. Toby died standing in that cell reading that paper. I sat back down, and my mom came and see me the next morning, and her first question was, what happened? What went down? What happened yesterday? I said, I don't even want to talk about it. It's over for me. I'm done. I never see the streets again, Mom. Don't even worry about coming down here and see me again. It's over. And my mom said, boy, is you crazy? It's not over. And I looked at her, and I didn't understand how she could even say something like that to me in the situation, in the position that I was in, looking through that glass. But I went on, and months later, I went to trial. I pleaded self-defense of others, which was my uncle. And when the jury went back for the verdict, they put me back in another holding cell. And I paced back and forth in that holding cell, waiting for the jury to come back with a verdict. And I walked around, and I paced. And I even think the guard stuck his head in there and said, Hennings, could you sit down? Because I was pacing back and forth. And another contract came my way. Another contract. I made a promise. I made a promise that if I ever get a second chance, I won't need a third. And I signed that contract. I signed that contract that day. The contract said, from this day forward, you will work hard as you can to be the best version of yourself that you can be, no matter what. You will be unstoppable, no matter what. You will take on every challenge that comes your way, no matter what. And I signed that contract. And I went back in there, and that jury found me guilty of a lesser offense, a first-degree reckless homicide. I was later on sentenced to 40 years in prison. And during that sentencing, my mom stood up, and my mom begged the judge not to put me away forever. My grandmom stood up, and my grandmom begged the judge not to put me away forever. And I was broken, but I remember that contract that I signed. So I went to prison. I was sent up north. And I did a lot of things when I was in prison. As G told you earlier, I took barber and cosmetology while I was in prison because of that contract I signed. I took auto detailing while I was in prison because of that contract I was signed. I played a lot of basketball, and it was hard to beat me because of that contract I signed. It had nothing to do with basketball. It had everything to do with that contract that I signed to be the best version of Ed that I could be, to be unstoppable. I'm standing up here today talking to you guys because of that contract I signed. I started a trucking business because of that contract I signed. I mentor, I coach, I'm unstoppable because of that contract I signed. Today is your day. It's your time. It's time for you to rip up a contract that you signed at 8, 9 years old. Because I'm looking around this room and I see it in your face. I see the faces that said, I ain't gonna never be broke. I see the look in your eyes that say, ain't nobody ever gonna do nothing to me. It's time for you to rip that contract up. It's time for you to throw that contract away. And it's time for you to sign a new contract. It's time for you to sign that contract to say whatever challenge come your way, you're gonna face it like a man. You're gonna face it head on. It's time for a new contract to be signed by you today. A day to say you're gonna be unstoppable. The contract to say you're gonna be unstoppable no matter what challenge ends up in front of you. No matter what nobody say. No matter the odds that say that 2 out of 100 don't come back. But your contract say you're not coming back. Your contract say that you truly can come back from anything. Today is the day you sign your contract. Your contract to be unstoppable. Your contract to take the world by its horns and become and do whatever it is you want to be and do in this life. Because you truly can do anything you want to do. You just haven't signed the contract. You see about my contract, my name on my contract about 300 times. Because every time I thought about renegotiating my contract and I thought about getting out of it, I told myself, no, go sign it again. When I got a visit and my kids had to leave and go home, I wanted to go back into the prison and lose my mind. But I pulled my contract out and I signed it again. When my grandma was standing in there with tears in her eyes, she didn't want to see me go to prison. I had to sign that contract, baby. Yesterday, I had some trouble with the trucks. I had a balloon insurance payment show up, and I wanted to go off. But I pulled that contract out. I had to sign that contract again and meet that challenge. I didn't have time to prepare. I didn't have time to prepare a speech. But guess what? I had my contract. And then my contract said, Ed, get up there and change somebody's life. So I know I don't stand up here with a piece of paper and a pen to pass around to everybody to sign that contract. You have to write that contract in your heart. You got to sign that contract in your mind that you're going to do whatever you need to do. You're going to humble yourself, but you're also going to be hungry. You're going to have a passion. You're going to be humble enough to know that it's nobody's fault, that it's nobody's doings, that why you sitting in this room today, and it's nobody that made you come here. This is all for you. This is your contract. This is your time. This is your comeback. I made my comeback. It don't have to stop with just me. I'm in the middle of my comeback. Somebody called me this morning, and they asked about the conference. We was in prison together, and they said, Ed, you told me you was going to do it. I said, yep. And I ain't done, because my contract says you got to keep going. I'm going to end this, but I'm going to end it with this. I've seen the passion. I've seen the passion. I've seen the discipline. I've seen the structure. I've seen some of these ladies and I've seen some of these guys show that passion when they're disrespected, when the opposition shows up. I've seen the passion in your eyes. I see the passion in you when you feel like somebody's done you wrong. I see that passion. I see the discipline when you're part of a crew, when you're part of a clique, when you're part of the hood. I seen that discipline when you stick to the rules of the hood. I seen the discipline. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget when grandma was crying. Don't ever forget those days when them guards got on you and you didn't like it. Don't forget them days. That's your fuel. That's the power to push you through anything. Because just when I feel like I can't make it, I think about those times because I know it's nothing going forward that can come close to anything that I done already been through. And I know the same goes for you. I know it's your life, but it's our purpose. I thank you guys.
Ed Henning, your life, your purpose, inspiring, meaningful, maybe not a dry in the house if you keep talking, brother. Thank you so much. There's nothing you can come back from. You can come back from anything. It's simple. There we go.
appreciate that very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Mr. Ed Hennies, y'all. Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Hennies. All righty. So, I mean, anybody feel motivated in here? Anybody feel like they can do something different? Anybody feel like you could come back from anything? All right. Well, again, I'm thanking you guys for the first half of our show. I thank you guys I thank again for Brad. If I can get, where's Tori? If I can get Tori and Adam and Josh and Brad, Ed, come back up to the stage. All right. Daryl, can you come back up? Can you come up here? Ed, Brad. Where's Josh? Anybody know where Josh went? Michelle, can you find your husband for me? Mr. Perez, if you can come up and join us, please. I think Chantel has left. Connor, Dart, if you guys can join us on the stage real quick, please. Yes. So when I told you as a woman in this movement, I'm as strong as the men behind me. These are the men behind me right now. These are the men behind me. These are the brothers I picked up the phone and said, we need to do this, and they was with it. They was like, let me know. So I want to thank you guys again. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. And I'm trying to get some photo ops. I'm looking for Josh so we can get some, Judge Draper, can you come up here with us real quick? I'm trying to get all my speakers that was on the program. Come on down. I don't see Jay or Artist, but here he come running. Here he come running. Look at him. Exactly how he was in middle school, just always late. Y'all, it's the group, it's the team. Hey, where's Josh? He outside. There we go. Always making us late. Right, I need it right over here. So again, thank you, fellas. These are the men of the comeback. And I want these fellas, I want to thank Artist and Jay and WCS for bringing all of their guys. Anybody who is a WCS participant, can you guys stand up for me? Anybody that's coming through. These are all the guys from the WCS. These are all the guys that are, they're making their comeback. So I thank you guys for coming. I wanted you to see somebody that looked like you that's making this happen. I wanted you to see somebody that's working in this field that's making this happen. I definitely want to make sure that you guys are motivated. I want to make sure you guys understand that you can do it. And this is not the last. This is not the end. This is just the beginning of what we're going to be doing. So the comeback was the kickoff. Like you have so much, I got too much power back here not to do something about it. It's too much on the stage back here. So I want all of the WCS, I want anybody in the building, anybody that's ever been through something to know that you can come back from anything. And thanks to these fellas back here. I'm gonna cry in the car. I ain't gonna do it out here, y'all. And I gotta say one more, before these, y'all got the pictures? And I just wanna pay homage to one more person. Mr. Terrence Ray just walked in. Can you wave your hand, Mr. Terrence Ray? Terrence Ray was our director of the Fatherhood Initiative. He is the reason why I'm standing where I am. So if anybody asks me like they're proud of what I'm doing, it's because this is what I modeled. So I want you to guys make sure that our first director of Fatherhood Initiative, Mr. Terrence Ray. Thank you, Mr. Terrence, for not hanging up on me and letting me get involved when I was calling and snapping on you. So once again, I just want to, as we move to the afternoon session, I'll be stepping down. So again, I want to thank all of the sponsors. I want to thank everybody who was a part of our, who came and had booths. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's not over. We got a couple things I want you to know, guys to know. They are still doing immunizations and blood pressure checks. So if you are interested in COVID shots, they're doing those, and they're doing blood pressure checks. And then we have some afternoon informational sessions. So we got a couple of them. We have one talking about, I think, with entrepreneurship and reentry. I don't know, I gotta ask to see how we're gonna do this, but apprenticeship. We got Josh Johnson, who is a state director. He actually brought the van outside. So not only will he show you what apprenticeship can do, you guys can go out there and actually get a feel for what you can do out there. And then I got Megan, who's gonna actually kick it off for us. Megan Morrissey. You wanna make sure you listen to this. She's coming from the Milwaukee Mobile Legal Clinic. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I didn't know you can get, not that I have one, but you can get an eviction expunged off your record. I got on the phone and called all my cousins. I'm like, y'all. Megan said, but she has a lot of information that she's gonna share with you guys about your rights, about legal, every legal aspect. So Megan is gonna come first and talk about that. Then we're gonna have Josh. Josh and his team they're coming for the apprenticeships, and they're gonna direct you to the van. And then we have Marika. Where's my girl Marika Rogers? Hey, Marika. Let me tell you something. Somebody must love me when I called her about 2 days before this and was like, "Can you come and talk about mental health?" And she said, "I'll be right there." So thank you. I appreciate you. So we're talking about mental health and physical health as it relates to reentry. So you definitely want to make sure you listen to her. All right. So you ready, Megan? PowerPoint. It's all you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. It is an absolute honor to be here. I've had the privilege to sit this morning and this afternoon and listen to such powerful stories. I'm truly inspired and moved by all of your stories and the journey that you guys are currently on and the journeys that you've had in your lives. My name is Megan Morrissey. I work at the Milwaukee Justice Center. I run the Mobile Legal Clinic. I also started and created the Expungement Pardon Clinic. By way of history of who I am, I went to law school in Madison. And why I wanted to go to law school in Madison was one thing in particular was because I knew I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney, specifically on the defense side. And I knew I also wanted to work on innocence cases. So I went and I worked for 3 years, 2 years as a law student and 1 year as a lawyer afterwards at the Wisconsin's Innocence Project, where I had the great privilege and honor to work on a case of a gentleman who was convicted of a first-degree intentional homicide. And I truly became friends with him. His name was Evan Zimmerman. He was in Waupun. And during that time,